Hey, welcome back to Real Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sarah. Really glad you're here today.
So, I want to start with something small. I was talking to a friend last week, someone I really respect, brilliant person, does work that actually matters. And she said, almost by accident, I just feel like I haven't proven anything yet. And I thought, proven it to who?
Oh, that hits.
And she laughed it off. But it stayed with me. Because she has a job, a life, people who love her. By any reasonable definition, she's doing well. But the number wasn't big enough. And so somehow, neither was she.
That's the thing, right? We say money doesn't define us. We believe that. Or we try to. And then we open our phones, see someone our age just bought an apartment, and something just shifts. Quietly.
Quietly. That's the word.
It never arrives loudly. It's just, suddenly you're measuring yourself against something you didn't even choose.
So today's question, and we're not going to pretend it has a clean answer, is this. Does money actually prove success? Does it prove intelligence? Or have we just decided it does?
And what does it cost us, quietly, to believe that?
Let's go back to that moment. Someone your age buys a house, or launches a business, or gets a promotion you didn't even know they were going for. And you feel it, this small, uncomfortable thing that arrives before you even decide to feel it.
Because your brain didn't ask permission.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that moment isn't really about the house, or the business. It's about what those things represent.
Money stopped being just a resource somewhere along the way. It became a message, a signal. This person figured it out. This person is ahead.
And if they're ahead, what does that make you?
Behind, or invisible, or not enough.
And that's when it stops being about money at all. That's when you've tied your self-worth to a number. And that's a very precarious place to live.
Tie your self-worth to something. We'll come back to that phrase. But sit with it for a second. Because a lot of us are doing it without realizing. We didn't sign up for it. It just happened.
Here's what I keep wondering, though. Why did money become the scoreboard? Like, of all the things, why this?
Because it can be counted. That's honestly a lot of it. Humans love what can be measured. We can argue about whether someone is kind or wise or a good parent, but we can't put a number on it. Money? You can put a number on it.
And we equate measurable with meaningful.
There it is. To equate two things means to say they're the same, or equal. And somewhere along the way, society decided to equate money with success, equate success with intelligence, equate intelligence with worth.
It's a chain of equations that nobody voted on.
Nobody voted on it, and yet here we all are, living inside it. And the chain works because each step feels kind of logical, until you look at the whole thing and realize none of it necessarily holds.
A person can have enormous wealth and no wisdom. A person can have enormous wisdom and an ordinary salary. The equation just doesn't work.
But society runs on it anyway.
Okay, can we talk about the intelligence part specifically? Because this is the one I find almost funny, in a dark way.
Oh, the prestige effect.
Yes, prestige, meaning the respect and admiration that comes with a high status. And it's fascinating, because prestige precedes a person. A wealthy person walks into a room before they've said a single word, and people are already listening differently.
They say something completely ordinary, something you might say, and somehow it sounds like insight.
And if you said the same thing, nobody would write it down.
That's not competence. Competence means actual skill, the real ability to do something well. What prestige does is make people confuse status with competence.
And the truly strange part is that wealthy people start to believe it too. You get told you're brilliant often enough, you start to think, maybe I am.
Maybe the money is proof.
But proof of what? That you were in the right place, that something worked, that you were lucky or smart or both, or just persistent. It is not proof of deeper intelligence or character.
And yet, the assumption lives, and it shapes who gets listened to, whose ideas get funded, whose opinions get published. The distorted definition of success, where wealth and wisdom are the same, it has real consequences.
I want to slow down here, because there's a group of people I keep thinking about in this conversation.
Tell me.
The people who work hard, genuinely hard, and are just not seen. Not because their work doesn't matter, but because it doesn't pay in a way that shows.
Teachers, caregivers, parents who stepped back from careers to raise children, artists, community workers, people doing the work that holds everything together.
And the self-perception damage from that, from being consistently undervalued, is real, and it is quiet. Self-perception means the way you see yourself. And when the world keeps sending the signal, your work is worth less, some part of you starts to believe it.
Even when that's objectively wrong.
Objectively wrong. And this is the part I find hardest. Not the wealthy person who thinks they're smarter than they are. That's easy to critique. It's the person who carries real worth and has learned to look down on themselves because the world looked down on them first.
To look down on someone means to think of them as inferior, as less than. And when you internalize that, when the outside voice becomes your inside voice, that's when comparison stops being a momentary feeling and becomes a way of seeing.
And these people aren't being dramatic. They're not failing. They're living inside a measurement system that was never designed for them.
And that is worth saying out loud.
And then social media arrived and gave comparison a home in everyone's pocket.
Success became an image, a curated, filtered, performed image. Someone's highlight reel, presented daily, as though it were just life.
And we know this. Intellectually, we know it. It's not real. They're showing the best parts. And still, it lands.
Because we see it in a moment when we're tired or uncertain or just eating lunch alone. And the emotional brain doesn't care what the logical brain knows.
So the distorted definition of success, where money is proof and image is evidence, gets reinforced. Constantly.
And here's what I think is interesting. I don't think the problem is money. Money matters. It pays for safety. It pays for options. Nobody reasonable is pretending otherwise.
The problem is the meaning we gave it, the extra weight we put on it.
That it is proof, that it is the score, that it tells us who won and who didn't.
Because here's what that thinking quietly does. People start climbing ladders they never chose. They pick the career that sounds impressive rather than the one that sounds true. They stay in the job they resent because leaving feels like admitting defeat.
And they arrive at the top of a ladder and realize, this wasn't even my wall.
And the ones who didn't climb it, the ones who chose differently or didn't have the choice, they carry this quiet shame that doesn't belong to them.
Success is deeper than numbers. I really believe that. And intelligence is wider than salary. There is more than meets the eye in almost every person who has been undervalued by a system that only counts what it can measure.
More than meets the eye, meaning there's more to something than what appears on the surface.
A person can look ordinary by every metric the world uses and carry something extraordinary inside. A richness of experience, of thought, of care that no number reflects.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe we don't need to redefine success completely. Maybe we just need to notice when the definition we inherited isn't ours.
And quietly, let it go a little.
So, does money prove success?
Sometimes it's evidence that something worked. A skill, an idea, a decision, a moment of luck. It can reflect effort. It often reflects privilege. It almost never reflects the whole picture.
And does it prove intelligence?
No, not really. It proves access and timing and opportunity, and sometimes genuine talent. But a person can be deeply, quietly, remarkably intelligent and earn an ordinary wage. That's just true.
And I think what today was really about was noticing the weight we carry when we believe otherwise. That quiet pressure that arrives when we feel like the numbers don't add up. When someone else's scoreboard makes us feel like we're losing a game we never agreed to play.
You're not behind. You're just living a life that can't be fully measured. And that might actually be the point.
If this conversation meant something to you, like, subscribe, share it with someone who might need to hear it.
We'll see you next time on Real Talk.
Take care of yourselves.